No,
And
I just started
anyway,
recording. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Uh, Ashok, why don't you start seven realities right away? Yeah.
Screen.
have you put it on screen?
Yes, no, one second. I had, whatever reason. It's back.
Yes, now I can see. Yes. Second.
Please go ahead.
Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai, the seven realities: existence, love, sacrifice, renunciation, knowledge, control, and surrender. I give no importance to creed, dogma, caste, or the performance of religious ceremonies and rites, but to the understanding of the following. One, the only real existence is that of the one and only God, who is the self in every finite self. Two, the only real love is the love for this infinity God, which arouses an intense longing to see, know, and become one with its truth, God. Three, the only real sacrifice is that in which, in pursuance of this love, all things, body, mind, position, welfare, even life itself, are sacrificed. Four, the only real renunciation is that which abandons, even in the midst of worldly duties, all selfish thoughts and desires. Five, the only real knowledge is the knowledge that God is the inner dweller in good people and in so called bad, in saint and in so called sinner. The knowledge requires you to help all equally as circumstances demand, without expectation of reward. When compelled to take part in a dispute, to act without the slightest trace of enmity or hatred, to try to make others happy with brotherly or sisterly feeling for each one, and to harm no one in thought, word, or deed, not even those who harm you. 6. The only real control is the discipline of the senses in to abstain from indulgence in low desires, which alone ensures purity of character. 7. The only real surrender is that in which poise is undisturbed by any adverse circumstance, and the individual, amidst all kind of hardship, is resigned with perfect calm to the will of God. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Over to you, Karthik.
Meher Baba Ki Jai. Thank you very much. Sorry for overlooking the time and chatting. So we have finished 159 pages. We are still in the 1940s, going through the various experiences with the Mus, with the book. It's still volume one. So let's dive straight into the book. And as always, if Praveen is around, he goes first. You want to read first,
Karthik,
Praveen? Yeah? Are you in a
I'm
position
around
to read?
position. So I can't now. Yeah, I will let
Oh,
you know
okay.
when I am. Okay. Sorry, sorry, sorry.
Sure, sure. Not a problem. So I will start for the first round and then maybe Ashok and then whenever you're ready. Yeah? Okay. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai.
Sure.
As I said, we are in page 159. We stopped there and we continue from Meher Baba, the master of the universe. Jal Tapaswi's severe penance and his remarks about the avatar remind me of another adept pilgrim of Rishikesh named Keshavanandji. His body looked like a statue in bronze, standing naked except for a loincloth and holding a bamboo staff in his hand. He used to gaze meditatively at the sun most of the day. In April 1934, Baba had asked one of his disciples named Pleader to visit holy places and meet the saints of India. Rishikesh, Pleader had Keshavanandji's attendant show the must a picture of Baba. Seeing it, he raised his luminous eyes, which were aflame with the longing for union with the infinite, and gestured for Pleader to come close. In a soft voice, he told Pleader that generally he did not allow anyone to come near him, but because of the divinity of Meher Baba, who is the master of the universe and who bears the burden of creation, he had to call Pleader near. In Keshavanandji's lifetime, Baba did not contact him personally. From such events, it seems that some adept pilgrims knew Meher Baba's divinity without his physical contact. There was a seeker who had lived on leaves and roots for years in his younger days and had a very emaciated body. After settling in Rishikesh, he locked himself in a room by the riverside and ate only one chapati and a little dal each day. Rich met him after much difficulty and told him that his Rich's father, Baba, wanted to see him. At the time of Baba's contact, the seeker turned a quizzical gaze upon him and harped on one question: how many sons have you besides Erich? This spoiled the quietness and depth of the spiritual contact. That is one section. And the next one is heavily garmented Rahmatullah and naked Bhagwan Nath. Baba intended to visit Uttar Kashi, but it was reported that the track was in very bad condition, so this visit had to be cancelled. It was delayed until April 1948. The group's roving must trip without adequate rest and food proved to be telling upon the health of all. This much was in quotes. So Baba consented to hire a house between Haridwar and Jwalapur for a temporary stay. The house was disinfected with DDT spray, yet the bugs survived to tease the Mandali and deny them even minimum comfort. It was Kaka's duty to cook rice and dal once a day for the Mandali. Baba was observing a fast and would sit all alone in seclusion for 3 hours every day. On August 23rd, Eruch and Baidul brought a heavily garmented must named Rahmatullah to Baba. His clothes were hanging loosely over his frame and they looked torn and dirty, for he rarely cared to change them. Yet he looked perpetually happy. His unfading smile was the smile of a soul lost in vision of God. He was on the sixth plane of consciousness, and about the state of such a soul, Baba once remarked, he is merged not in God, but in seeing God. Knowingly or unknowingly, the must touched Baba's feet, but Baba did not like this gesture of reverence. It seems that such an act adversely affected his spiritual work. So the must was soon sent back to Saharanpur. The next must, called Bhagwan Nath Kone Baba, was brought to the bungalow from Pinjore. He was an Avadhut, an almost naked must. He was of a very restless disposition, and it was difficult to ascertain the expressions in his eyes. It was the occasion of a fair, and the trains were overcrowded. But Erich and Baidul accommodated themselves with the must in a first class compartment in spite of the rumblings and comments of the passengers. It was an ordeal to get him to Baba's residence, but Baba was glad to contact Bhagwan and later instructed the Mandali to keep a watch over the mast at night in turns. In the morning, when everyone was busy with his respective duties, the mast left the bungalow. It was found again 9 miles from Hardwar, and Baba told Adi Senior to take him to Pinjore. Adi was well versed in correspondence but not in handling musts, and Bhagwan was so unmanageable that Adi could not escort him to his destination. Baidul, the Sardar of Musts, was deputed by Baba, and upon returning, he remarked that it was one of his most trying journeys. Some musts were more full of pranks than mischievous children. Baba contacts the poor. On August 27th, Baba reached Saharanpur. The next day, he visited a public library with a big hall, which was filled with men and women of different castes and creeds. In a private room near the hall, Meher Baba contacted 1,500 middle class and poor people, but his identity was not disclosed to them. At the time of contact, he gave each person some money as prasad. Dr. William Donkin wrote about this occasion and he quotes, "At such times, Baba does some spiritual work of inner and universal significance. And it is for this reason that private contact with each one is essential. It is, of course, this inner work that is important, for giving of charity to a few hundred souls amongst the millions of India's poor is not of much material significance." Quote ends, and the quote was from William Donkin, Wayfarers, page 350. In the last week of August, Baba sent Adi Senior to Bangalore and Ahmednagar for some work. He also instructed Baidul to visit Hyderabad in the Sindh, that's the Punjabi Hyderabad, I mean the Pakistani Hyderabad, Sukur, Layalpur, and a few other places to collect information about Mas. For a period of 2 weeks, commencing from August 29, Baba maintained a fortnight of strict seclusion at Niranjanpur. The next 2 weeks, ending with September 24th, was a period of semi seclusion. Few musts were brought for Baba's contact at his residence. Pendu and Adi Senior arrived at Niranjanpur by the second week of September, and both of them were sent by Baba to collect more information about the musts in Punjab and to wait at Lahore for Baba's arrival as he planned to visit Sindh. If I remember right in the book, I think he makes 2 or 3 sweeps of Pakistan in this must tours. And he visits Lahore, Quetta. He goes right up to Quetta, and I think, yeah, I think Quetta is the longest. He goes away from India. South, of course, he goes to Ceylon, now Sri Lanka. Okay, let's continue reading. Lal Sen, the fattest must of India. On September 29, Baba Eruch and Baidul joined those who were at Lahore. After a sleepless night and an exhausting train journey by third class, the party reached Hyderabad, Sindh. During the 2 days they spent in the city, Baba met 8 musts of high order. Near the main gate of the old fort, a must was seen sitting on a bed, all the time muttering something to himself. It was learned that he had been occupying the same bed for the last 15 years and had practically not left his seat. The other must, Zindawali, lived inside the fort and had not come out of it for the past 30 years. He was fond of keeping all kinds of pet animals. Musts are in fact strangers to this world, and so their ways appear strange to us. Mama Must had a fancy for stitching pieces of cloth all the time. The fancy of Pir Shah Sayyed was to dye his hair with henna. Baba Gokulananda, an advanced pilgrim, was a centenarian and the oldest must contacted at Hyderabad. Then there was Lal Sain Must, the fattest of all the musts in India. One of the Mandali remarked that his tummy could contain a baby Austin car. Dr. Donkin wrote that Lal Sen was so obese that he slept with his head dropped upon his chest, for he could not lie down, nor did he ever move from his place, for his size prohibited walking. He was the last must Baba met at Hyderabad, and the contacts made in this great city pleased Baba. He was seen in a delightfully good mood, and from his cheerful face it appeared that the strain of contacting must seemed to him more play than work. He perceived the real worth of the souls beneath those ragged and dirty exteriors. A game of patience and of spiritual chess. On October 1, Baba visited Sehwan, where he contacted Nadir Ali Shah, an adept pilgrim, a very good muss of the fifth plane. Nadir Ali once stood on one foot in a ditch for 2 years, a remarkable feat of penance indeed. Adept pilgrim is of the fifth or sixth plane, and advanced is third or fourth plane. These are again clearly defined in Wayfarers. Continue. His comrade in the same city, Noor Ali Shah Patan, made the Mandali perform penance in a different way. From noon until night, the Baba party patiently waited near the mast. It was very hot and there was a scarcity of good drinking water. Noor Ali was a famous figure and was usually surrounded by visitors, and Baba wanted to meet him alone. Baba was not in a mood to leave and come again, so perhaps that was a pretext for silent communication with that must on a higher plane. And cannot silence be a meaningful conversation? Frequently, the quick glances that passed between the must and Baba had in them a deep, intimate understanding. By 10 that night, Baba was able to personally contact Noor Ali all alone. He left Sehwan at a midnight train for Sukur, where they arrived the next morning. For a hasty breakfast, the party started out to find the must residing in Sukur. Adi Senior wrote about life with Baba on the must tours, and he quotes, Baba was observed to have known the process of physical contact with a must, effective for his universal work. That is why he contacted musts by going through the most uncomfortable journeys to towns, cities, and villages, utterly heedless of sleep, food, rest, and baths. No consideration of any of these was made if one good must was to be contacted. Qazi Sahib of Sukur was surely a good must. He had come from Afghanistan. He had a typical laugh and he seemed to enjoy singing programs, which was not a common trait in musts. Qazi Sahib tried to play a game with Baba. But in this game of spiritual chess, Baba, by sending the Mandali to different places, eventually checkmated him in a college building. There, he agreed to have Baba's contact, which made both of them happy and thus ended this game of spiritual chess. The same day, Baba crossed the Indus in a ferry boat to reach Satbela Island, where he met the fair-faced Swami Hariram. Baba is Sahen Shah, the emperor. Baba's visit to Sukur, Pakistan, brings to my mind an incident that happened in June 1924 concerning a Mastani named Mai Sahib. She was not directly contacted by Baba, but like Keshavanandji of Rishikesh, she knew Meher Baba's spiritual authority as the avatar. The spiritual link with her was indirectly revitalized through one of the Mandali, Ramju. He has described this episode very well in one of his articles. During the first 2 years of my field service with Baba, I happened to be in Sukur before it became famous for one of the largest barrage schemes in the world. It is one of the hottest cities in Sindh, wherein Hazrat Bachal Shah, a Muslim master, lived his earthly life and died. When I went there to pay my respects, the cool and shady spot was tempting enough in the sweltering heat to make me lie down for a while under one of the trees in the garden. But before I could doze off, I had to open wide my eyes for an old woman moving about the grounds who appeared from a distance to be an exact double of Hazrat Baba Jan of Pune. She was about the same height, the same build, with an identical crown of snow white curly hair. This similarity made me mark her very minutely from where I was lying down. All the time she was rapidly going here and there as if extremely busy. It was not long before I could see that, unlike Hazrat Babajan, she had vacant, dreamy eyes, darker complexion, constant restlessness, and above all, a habit of loudly muttering to herself. By the time the sun had gone down considerably, I preferred to take a stroll by the riverside. At the end of a bend in the path, I came across the moving and muttering old lady. To my utter amazement, I found I was looking down into a pair of most intelligent eyes, fixed in steadfast gaze into my own without a flicker. She spoke in the challenging tone of a sentry in clear Urdu. Tera peer kaun hai? Who is thy spiritual guide? The only spontaneous word I could utter, point blank, was Meher Baba. The moment she heard this, he said, Badshah, king, and then after a momentary pause added, Shahenshah, emperor. With these two words, like a flash of lightning, she, she shrank back in her vacant, dreamy eyes and resumed moving about, muttering incoherently. I followed her deliberately and managed to cross her path twice, hoping to hear something more, but she ignored me completely. For the time being, the immediate surroundings appeared to have passed out of existence for her. There's a end quote, which again should be Wayfarers. No, this is actually from the Meher Baba Journal. Abdul Karim Abdullah, How I Met Them and What They Told Me. Meher Baba Journal, January 1939, pages 73 and 74. So, Meher Baba's spiritual work with and through the God intoxicated souls is indeed a mystery. So I'll just pause here and then maybe we can even rotate the reading. Any thoughts? Of course, we have gone through this in detail in Wayfarer, so I was also not pausing. Anybody is in a position to take up and read from here? Ashok?
Yeah,
No?
yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Um,
If you're okay, you can continue from here. Musts are immune to diseases.
Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai. Musk are immune to diseases. Rohini is a place near Sukur, and Baba contacted 5 months there. High Chor Mas lived in the filthiest of surroundings. Such environment did not and does not affect the health of the mus because they are immune to all diseases. While clarifying this point of dirty and filthy surroundings, Baba explained, a god mad has a clean, pure mind. A god intoxicated has a mind but no thoughts. A god merged has no mind, he is fully merged in God. When the mind does not pay attention to the body naturally automatically survives and looks after itself. Now, because of a kind of universal working on the gross plane, a sort of automatic attraction takes place which causes a man who's indifferent to cleanliness to be attracted to place himself in dirty surroundings. He does not purposely choose an unclean place but tends to gravitate towards it. For those who are God mad, God intoxicated, or God mush, this dirtiness does not affect their health because the mind is not attached to the body. The cross references, the Wayfarers, page 33, 34, that's cross reference 45. When Baba visited I sure for a moment his eyes were filled with overwhelming concern for the dirty surroundings. Baba spent some time. Sorry, shall I read again?
Yeah, Baba spent time. Yeah.
Yeah. Baba spent some time with the filthiest must in that Awakens stable, while the must looked at him with appreciative glances. People did not dare stand near this must. They preferred to invite Sant Tukaram, a must in a mazub like state, to their houses and felt blessed. I just want to add that Sant Tukaram is from Maharashtra.
No, I think, but the Sant Tukaram was living in an older era, right? So this is a must by that name.
Oh, I see. Okay. Maybe I'm mixing up two names. Okay.
No, it's the
Allah,
same name. You're mixing up two people.
I'm mixing up two people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Possible, yes. Allah Baksh must had a childlike disposition. Sant Ram was born a must. Baba met them all with love in his heart. Baba met them all with love in his heart. Sorry. The last contact in Rohri worth mentioning was Master Nimraji. He was a mazub like must between the sixth and seventh planes. Sometimes his eyes looked visionary. He was so head tempered He was so hot tempered, sorry. People feared him, yet because of his saintly personality that revered him too. His face resembled that of Chacha of Ajmer, the Mazube Kamil. These visits to Sukur and Rohri completed Baba's work in Sindh and the party journeyed towards Punjab state to contact more musts. Life of the God Man is creative flame that has set afire many God intoxicated souls in various ways to be the light unto themselves. Must work a vital phase. The phase of Meher Baba's work with must. Oh, I'm sorry, this is a new chapter.
Yeah, it's a new chapter, so just start with the chapter name. I was speaking on muted. Yeah.
Chapter 11. Those who bear witness, 1946. Must work a vital phase. The phase of Meher Baba's work with must, the God intoxicated souls, needs patient and serious study to appreciate in depth and dimensions. From the late 30s, this phase had been an inseparable part of his work. Meher Baba served the must in many ways. He bathed them, clothed them, fed them, and he did not mind pressing their feet, a humble gesture by the highest of the high. He sat alone to give his spiritual touch. He even cleaned their latrines. This was the visible and external part of his work. But Meher Baba was merely concerned with their state of consciousness. He gave them a lift, a push through personal contact. Once someone asked Meher Baba, why, as you are a master and they are so advanced or saints, need you trouble to contact them in person? The master explained, they already know me, but it is for my work that it is needed. Cross reference 46. Elizabeth C. Patterson, Spiritual Journey with a Modern Guru, Meher Baba Journal, June 1939, page 52. The phase of must work was in fact an important and vital aspect of Meher Baba's inner spiritual work. It ushered new perspectives into the consciousness of the must and began enlightenment and spiritual transformation. Baba did this by activating latent, tender resources in their hearts. At every advent of God man, this is the pressing need of the time. It seemed that Baba wanted to marshal these soldiers of God for the gradual awakening of humanity through of humanity from slumber. At every time he comes, this has been accomplished after a period of physical and mental suffering, both man made and natural. I take a pause here. Karthik, one question. Now, Baba has come in his advent and, help these masks. Now, what happens if there are people in their journey and if they're in the advanced planes? The question to the group is what happens now?
Good question, and I don't have an answer. Probably the perfect master, one of them probably is tasked with helping them out, or maybe the charge men, the spiritually advanced, have the duty of helping them. And honestly, I think so. If in the earlier avatar, earlier avataric advents, there is no mention of the work that those avatars did with mus or definition of mus as Baba has clearly done, right? So, but I'm sure there were mus even in those periods. So I would say it's something like that, not for us to know.
That's a good, let's say, uh,
I have something to say here, like probably just my own thought. Uh, I feel that Baba, whatever he did during his physical life period, would be applicable for the entire Avtaric period. Like whatever he has to do with the coming ages, like the current age and everything.
By that you mean the impact will last longer than
Yeah,
his
yeah,
physical
exactly.
ad. Yeah, yeah. No, no, no,
Like
no doubt, no doubt, no doubt. So he
if
has
someone
himself
is
said
currently,
that, right?
yeah,
His acts in his physical form are symbolic and will will I mean whatever he does actually has an impact that's far more long lasting. So in that sense, yes. But practically see how does it help Mus of today is Ashok's question. And so it must be happening through some other uh, people involved in universal work.
The indirect, like what Baba did directly, and the indirect effects of it would flow today to the respective mosques, is what I was trying to uh,
Yeah,
imagine
yeah,
or
yeah.
say. Another thing, when you were saying that earlier, I read somewhere in Baba's this book somewhere, not written by Baba, but some other person, like what Ram was doing when he was in exile was also something similar to this must work. I don't know. Its truth, the validity of its truth. I have not read it in Lord Meher for sure, but somewhere other.
Yeah. But so there are contacts that probably all the avatars make with specific Mus, but the
Yeah,
intensity and the quantity, uh,
yeah,
and we all know it thanks to
sure.
Dawkins, is of course at a different scale, right? Order of magnitude. This is like uh, thousands of contacts he has made. So
Yeah, that's true.
it's
If
yeah, yeah.
if we refer to like, I hope you all know the story of Shabari. Uh,
Yeah, I was reminded of that when you said Ram, and in the
because
uh,
the way she was explained, this should be somewhere in some planes, like higher planes.
complaint. Yeah, yeah, possible. And I
So
think I
it's
I
like this.
think I've come across this Baba story or maybe Lord Meher reference where he talks of Shabari to be in the advanced plane. Yeah,
Fine. And Karthik, sorry, like today I think I couldn't be reading. Yeah, sorry.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, no problem.
Once Baba remarked, I love these lovers of God. Musts. They know nothing of the world. They are so blissfully indifferent even to their bodily needs. All for their love of God. When the whole world craves and cries for Maya, lust, greed, etc., and rushes for each other's throats. Sorry,
Yeah, what happened? Is it okay, or should I continue?
no, I'm uh, reference 47 F.H. Dada notes from my diary, Meher Baba Journal, May 1939, page 55. Uh, I continue from so mad are the musts in their love for God. About such God intoxicated souls, one saintly person in India stated that in all greatness,
If all greatness.
I'm sorry, I'll just read again. So, mad are the musts in their love for God. About such God intoxicated souls, one saintly person in India stated, if all greatness is lunacy, these are the apostles of divine lunacy. By recharging the vital incentives in consciousness, Meher Baba intensified the madness for God, kindling a spark into a flame.
I'm sorry, Kartik. One question I have.
Sure, go
In
ahead.
terms
Hi,
of the
Maho.
name of the book, hi, Jay Baba. Sorry
Jai
to
Baba.
not to say hi.
Yeah, no, no, no
uh,
problem.
now I didn't want to interrupt, but I did interrupt. I wanted to find out. This is a glimpse of the God Man by Bal Natu. Is it volume 1 or 2?
Volume one.
Volume 1, part 1.
Yes.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
I'm
I
trying
don't
to
know if,
find the PDF.
yeah, I think it's part one. So, by the
Yeah,
way, I
because
have combined it to a single PDF for my convenience, and that's available online as well. So you can go and get a copy if you want. It's huge, but I mean, our devices are good enough to handle 2,000 pages on a PDF well these days. So it's
What
got
is the
2,000
link?
pages. La send it to you.
Okay.
Or if you
You
go to
can put it in
YouTube,
the chat.
yeah, if you go to YouTube, you'll find it. Yeah, I'll put it on the chat. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. In the no, in the description, I can find it. That's not a problem. Thank
All
you.
right, sure. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, kindling a spark into a flame. Let us now return to the account of Baba's Must tours. He left Sukur, Pakistan on October 3rd, 1946, accompanied by Baidul, Adi Senior, Pendu, and Eraj, and they reached Multan, Punjab the next day. Baba contacted four good souls. A native pilgrim named Hazrat Sharuddin Shah Salik had arranged for the daily feeding of the poor in the town. He himself subsisted only on sharbat, a sweet cold drink. Tapasvi Purandas Mahatma lived on a fruit diet. In the case of seekers and pilgrims, it was noticed that some maintained strict rules about diet. Most of them were vegetarians, but in case of Mus, it was found that they were not particular about the type of food they ate. They remained absorbed in their love for God and generally accepted what was given to them. Tata Fakir Must was a good Must who accepted nothing from anyone except his daily food. In contrast to this, Chup Shah, a religious minded person and seeker, collected money from people for the maintenance of a mosque. On October 5th, Baba was at Lialpur. Premchand was a Sikh must. He lived in a dirty room filled with all sorts of rubbish. As Baba visited his place, his shining eyes swept the entire room with his warm blessings, and then he blessed the must with his personal sanctifying contact. Fakir Chand must, another must, willful in their fancies, rambled about in different localities of the town, and Baba had to rove about Lalpur to find him. Hundreds of people have journeyed, sorry, uh, I'll read again here. Fakir Chand must, another must, willful in his fancies, rambled about in different localities of the town, and Baba had to rove about Lalpur to find him. Hundreds of people have journeyed hundreds of miles to have a glimpse of Baba, and there he was searching the town to find a must. An Indian Christian must was very elusive. He resided in a Christian cemetery in Govindpur. Baba approached him twice, but each time the must pretended to be fast asleep. The Mandli asked the devotees of the must to request him to at least open his eyes, but he paid no heed. One of them reported that just before Baba's arrival, this blessed soul would suddenly lie down to sleep. Finding the must quite reticent, Baba did not contact him against his will. Baba's contact was joy for most of the must, but it meant the sharing of some additional spiritual responsibilities. During Baba's personal contacts with the must, the deeper levels of consciousness were made to function. It was like kindling a spark into a flame. With some musts, the flame became unbearable. After Baba's contact, a must living near Aurangabad cried aloud, "Oh, you have set me aflame. The burning is intense." It may be that must evaded Baba's contact for this reason. This
Maybe
but
that some must evaded Baba's contact for this reason.
yeah, this sorry, yeah, the
Yeah, yeah, no problem.
this particular must in his childlike whim was not willing to share extra spiritual liability and live and like a loving mother, Baba catered to his vagary.
If I can pause you for a minute here, I remember from the reading, but I don't have exact statistics. But I remember talking about how we came across very few Christian mass, right? In fact, if you do a rough calculation, I think 90 plus percent are all Mohammedan mass. Maybe 9% or maybe it may be 85, 14 will be 14% will be Hindu. The last 1% is probably Christian. I think we came across only one or two names and examples of must contacts which were Christian. So I don't know if that holds any significance, but that was how the numbers broke up. In the same way, I think probably 3-4% were only women. Mostly the musts were uh, men. And many of these women musts were called Mastani Mais because that's how they were referred to locally, in spite of their actual names and stuff. Yeah, let's continue.
In case of Nadir Ali Shah, a greater degree of mental reservation was noticed. In March 1941, Baba was staying in Quetta. He sent Baidul and Eraj to meet Nadir Ali and get his consent for Baba's personal contact. The must lived in a tent which was always full of smoke coming from Dhuni. A cross reference 48. A fire of few logs of wood, wet or dry, which some musts and pilgrim in India are in the habit of keeping burning by their seats day and night. That's the cross reference for Dhuni. Several times they both emerged from the tent with smoky tears rolling down their cheeks, but they could only convey a clear no from Nadir Ali to Baba. The must would often say in a mood of abstraction and in a symbolic language, if he visits, my boat would be drowned in the ocean. Meher Baba's physical presence. That was in quotes from if he visits still presence. In the end, Baba circled around his sorry. In the end, Baba circled around his tent in a motor car, so perhaps a flame glowed inside the smoky tent and in the heart of the must too.
Okay, we can maybe rotate the reading from here. Jai Baba, Sunil, and Mahu, are you in a position to read, either of you?
Yeah, I can read.
Okay,
Before we read, uh, I also went to YouTube and look at everything that you guys did. It's my first time. I'm very, very impressed. And in fact, I got hold of the PDF of Volume 1, the one that we're reading. So everything is very well organized. Thank you for doing all this. It was
yeah,
really nice work you guys have done.
I've also dropped it on the chat here. So the full
Oh, you
book.
did?
Yeah,
Okay, I
yeah,
didn't see
yeah,
that. Okay,
yeah.
great.
All right.
Now I found that it's pretty straightforward. Yeah, I'm into
Yeah,
ebook
okay.
links and all the links are there. Okay, I'll continue.
Yeah, yeah.
A camel, yeah, a camel ride to Mitri. By the evening of October 5th, Baba reached Ushab and stayed for the night in a rest house. In the morning, he made a 7-mile journey in a tanga to reach Jabalpur.
No,
The
I think it's
tanga,
Jalalpur. I think it's
oh,
Jalalpur, a different
Jalalpur.
place. I think
Oh,
Baba
is
is
a
still in
different place
Pakistan.
than Jabal? Okay,
Yes,
I
I
thought that
think
you
this
told me.
must be in Pakistan.
Yeah, seems a pretty Muslim name. Okay. In the morning, he made a 7-mile journey in a tanga to reach Jalalpur. The tanga jolted on the stony and sandy track and stuck half a dozen times in the mud of unbreached streams. The mast Kasim Ali Baba was quite an old man and was credited with having occult powers. It was not known whether or not to continue to possess them after Baba's contact. Baba once remarked that masts do not misuse their powers, though at times, like children, they make a display of them. As the avatar contacts a mast, if the situation so demands, rolling up, such powers automatically merge into his being, and the quote unquote toys are taken away from the child for his own benefit. The journey to the second village visited, Pale, was equally uncomfortable. About 28 miles in the cramped and crowded bus. A mast named Saint Faisal lived atop a small hill 2 miles off the road. He was naked, but usually kept a blanket on his person. He had renounced his house and had been living there for 4 decades. He was honored by Hindus and Muslims alike. After meeting these two God intoxicated souls, Baba left for Bikaner via Lahore and Bathinda. The railroad ran through a sandy desert in Rajasthan, and no good food was available at the stations. On October 10, Baba reached Bikaner and moved through the city to contact about 10 moderate masts. By
So,
evening the next, I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, yeah. No, I just wanted to give some geographic reference. So, I think he was on the Punjab side of Pakistan. I mean, uh, yeah, Punjab, which is on the Pakistani side, and he crossed over to Rajasthan of on the Indian side. Uh, that's the entry is actually on the through the desert route, and then that's where he comes into Batinda, right? So Bikaner is on the Indian side now.
By evening the next day, Baba and his mandali arrived at a small railway station named Narayanpura, Narayanpura, 4 miles from a village called Mitri. Baba permitted the hire of a camel to cross this stretch of desert. He rode the camel for a very short period and then asked the mandali to ride in turns. They hesitated to take a seat on the camel's back when their master was walking along by its side, but Baba told them to ride and they had to obey him. It can well be imagined how much they enjoyed that ride. Lakshman Das, an adept pilgrim, lived in a temple at Mitri. He had been staying there for about 50 years. In spite of his age, his eyes had retained the luster of youth. With fair face and a fairer heart, he welcomed most cordially the fairest flower of humanity, the God-man, to his residence. The mandali moved aside as Baba entered the room of the saint. Lakshman Das felt overjoyed and a sudden rush of tears filled his eyes. He reverently responded to the personal touch of the master. Baba immediately left Mitri. No stop, no rest. The strength contained in his delicate frame was a constant source of wonder. Hmm. Baba didn't stop there, huh?
Yeah.
But whatever needed to be done, probably done. Faisal Shah acclaims Meher Baba's avatarhood. Baharatpur was visited to contact a Salik of a high order, Pir Faisal, Pir Faisal Shah, but it was learned that he had left for Kota. Baba told the Mandali that this Salik, like Lakshman Das, was an adept pilgrim. What does it mean, an adept pilgrim? Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. It's Adept Pilgrim is fifth and sixth plane. I was just thinking we should get that slide. I'll just bring it up. So Baba has classified based on the position on the planes in wayfarers, right from the beginning stages before the pilgrim gets to the spiritual path, and then on the path as well. So I'll just show you
Hmm.
that.
Wow. How many masks? So many. Hmm.
So the adept pilgrim is between the fifth and the sixth plane on the rightmost side. So the
Oh,
advanced
the
pilgrim
most
is third.
advanced.
No,
Yeah.
so seventh plane is after this. So this is so it starts with Hava, somebody who's not even permanently in the path, but has a relationship with the path. Then a seeker is he's at the beginning. Then the initiate pilgrim is between the first and second plane, and then advanced and adept. But Baba didn't use this terminology elsewhere, but Bal Natu uses it frequently. So you keep referring to advanced and adept if you notice in the last few chapters.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, can we also use this terminology, or this is only for the must?
No, this is not must. So musts are in the so if you go back two slides
No, I
here.
mean, if you want to put them in the category, which I think Bal Natu did. He did say
Uh,
solid, or
yeah. So it's very complicated. So musts are very specific. So if these are all the types of advanced soul that you can think of, right?
oh,
The So, but they are done in different ways. So one second. So if you see this, so if you look at it from the plane's perspective, the musts are
Yes.
anywhere from, if you see this uh flower
Yeah.
bracket that I have put here, it's from
Yeah.
the first to the sixth plane. The moment you go to the
Oh,
seventh plane, they become a Matsu,
yes.
right? And if you take the classification of initiate, advanced, and adept, they are like either first to second, third and fourth, and the fifth and sixth. So
Mm.
within the mass, there are three categories. Yeah. Anyway, let's get back to the reading.
Oh. No, this is the first time I'm hearing Hava. That must be us.
I hope so.
Yeah. Now most
Yeah.
Baba lovers actually, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, let me find where I was. Oh, was an adept pilgrim. Yes. At
Yeah.
Kota, Faisal Shah greeted the party with much warmth and respect. He shot a delighted glance in Baba's direction and seemed really pleased. Baba smiled back at him with his compassionate eyes. Faisal Shah only offered Baba a chair, a spontaneous recognition of divinity in human form. He seemed emotionally overwhelmed and could not conceal his feelings. Within a short time, Baba and the Salek entered another room, which was spotlessly clean. At the end of the contact, as they came out of the room, Faisal Shah's eyes were filled with unshed tears of joy, and he said to Meher Baba, "No one until you came has touched my heart with the arrow of divine love. You have the power to destroy and flood the world. No one fully knows the limits of your greatness. You are the spiritual authority of the time, and if I were to die, I would take another body to be close to you." And I don't know what 49 is. Uh, yeah, this is from The Wayfarer by William Duncan, page 281 to 282. The quote is from there. He insisted that Baba should drop him a letter after he reached his headquarters safely. How strange. He asked one of his devotees to write down his address and handed it to Baba. What do the extemporary remarks of an advanced soul like Faisal Shah indicate? Perhaps these can be treated in general as the audible signs of Meher Baba's working with the masts, and in particular as the unreserved response given to him as the avatar of the age. Baba then proceeded to Etah by bus via Kashganj. One of the mosques at Etah was extremely fond of pan or betel leaves. His face was stained with red lines made by the juice of chewed pan. He roamed the city constantly and rolling up, contacting him was not easy. With much difficulty, he was finally spotted and was cordially coaxed to Baba's contact. It was a happy meeting. Shah Sahib Mughal Mian Badanwala, wow, what a big name. Shah Sahib Mughal Mian Badawala, a good
Makbul,
mosque.
I think Makbul Mia Budaun Wala.
Oh,
I don't know if
Maqbul. Yeah, Maqbul means
Makbul.
pretty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Makbul
right.
Mia Udaunwala.
Maqbul. Yeah, Maqbul Mian Budanwala. A good must was typically indifferent to his bodily comforts. Once he met with a car accident, but he did not allow anyone to treat his fractured limbs. Later, one of the wounds turned septic and was filled with maggots. When Baba contacted him, the wounds the wound was still there, unhealed, hazardly. I think it's a typo.
No.
Hazardly
It's haphazardly. Haphazardly means in a very unorganized way or in a random or not orderly
Oh,
way.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. I haven't heard that before.
Yeah.
Haphazardly covered with a dirty bandage, but the mosque appeared to be unaffected by it. I would like to mention here two more incidents of this type. A Majzub-like mosque at Quetta used to chew stale bones, and his body was covered with innumerable lice. He would neither try to get them off nor even kill a single one. There was another mosque at Rajkot or Gujarat whose body was swarming with millions of fleas, and it was difficult to even have a look at his face. These two mosques seemed entirely unconcerned either by the lice or the fleas. Does does it not show that the flame of love within the mosques was an antidote for all disease? True, the life of a mosque is a challenge to our hygienic conceptions and perhaps to medical knowledge. Every time Baba passed by the tent of the mosque at Quetta in 1924, the mosque would gaze vacantly at him. When Baba entered the tent once, the lice-covered mosque embraced Baba with a startling ferocity. Was this not a matchless meeting? The perfect master procured from nowhere. Mathura was the last place visited during this master tour, which had commenced on September 29 and ended on October 14, 1946. At Mathura, there was a mosque named Inayatullah. He was an old dwarfish person, but quite tall spiritually, for he was the head of the mosques there. During every visit to this holy city, Baba invariably contacted him. Recognition of Meher Baba's divinity by one spiritually advanced soul named Brahmanji,
Brahmanandji.
Brahmanandji was a striking affair. In his youth, this adept pilgrim was on a high rung of the ladder of learning. Now he was to be seen sitting on top of boundless of 50 rags, far beyond the reaches of the world. He now held in his heart a peerless treasure, love for the Lord. He lived in the stable of a dharamshala by the side of the river Jumna. As
Yamuna or
Baba
Yamuna.
Yamuna, Yamuna,
Yeah. Also
Yeah.
called Yamuna, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Jade doesn't pronounce Yamuna. As Baba approached him for personal contact, Brahmananji looked at him intensely in great reverence and love, as if his world being went out to him, means to Baba. His face beaming with ecstatic delight, he opened his heart, saying, "Behold how devoted love draws the Lord Krishna to me. The perfect master is here." This probably also from Wayfarer, number 50. Yeah, Wayfarer, page 307. And then, what a surprise! He put his hand below the filthy pillow and produced a new copy of the book, The Perfect Master by the late Purdom, first published in England in 1937. How on earth he could conjure up such a spotlessly clean copy remains an enigma to this day. I guess somebody else should read now, huh?
Sure, sure.
As
Uh,
eight, yeah.
I'll take over. So
Okay.
this is the CB Purdom book that is being referred to. So wonder how he pulled that out under his filthy pillow. But let's continue. Um, Thank you, Mahu.
Might have been occult power, you
What
know.
is that? Yeah,
It might have been his occult power, he just generated it. Who knows?
the book. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
possible. Here comes the flute player is the title. Brahmananji's reference to Meher Baba as Lord Krishna and to his divine love reminds me of a similar amazing event. In January 1939 at Agra, Baba stayed in a bungalow near the Taj Mahal. From Agra, Baba and his group of Eastern and Western disciples visited Brindavan near Mathura. This particular place is very closely connected with the Leela of Lord Krishna. While going from place to place in Tongas, the group came across a tiny, happy looking fellow who outwardly appeared to be mad. Baba deeply enjoyed and appreciated the graceful response of this queer looking fellow. Elizabeth Patterson wrote a fine account of the episode in one of her articles, and he quotes. The quaint town of Brindavan seems in harmony with ancient pastoral times, and even today cowherds are plentiful while the traditional monkeys roam about the streets. As we approached the place along the river where Krishna had played with his gopis, a youngish man wearing what resembled a fool's cap sat on the steps playing his flute. So sweetly he played that one was attracted to this court jester and the ancient flute song of Krishna. The moment the man noticed Baba, he stopped his playing and, in a voice loud enough for those with the master to hear, he said, "Here comes the flute player," which is the other name for Krishna. All the time we went around the small town, this mendicant followed Baba or ran ahead, and just around the bend of the street, we would hear his flute sounds. It was like a haunting melody. He didn't want many money, he didn't want anything, and when he passed, several people smiled, thinking him to be a fool with his dancing steps and flute. Towards the end, he seemed to become almost ecstatic, and the attendant with us, thinking he was annoying us, tried to drive him away with his stick. Upon this, Baba immediately protected the flute player and gave the attendant to understand that he liked it. Baba informed us that this was the man for whom he had come that day and that he was a highly evolved soul. Just before returning to the bus, extraordinary greetings, or how to describe it, signals went on between Baba and the mendicant as Baba drove away in the bus. We saw the ecstatic figure dancing on tiptoe like the Pied Piper of Hamelin and waving his flute in the most rapturous manner. There's a end note here, 51. Elizabeth Patterson, Spiritual Journey with a Modern Guru, Meher Baba Journal, June 1939, pages 54 and 55. During this move together, Meher Baba allowed this little must to hold his hand and walk with him some distance. A very natural and lively contact. Baba also remarked that he was one of his real lovers. Marvelous are the ways of Baba in meeting and helping the lovers of God in their merry march to see him as he really is, their own self. Azim Khan's explicit proclamation. Azim Khan's recognition of Baba's divinity was of a direct nature. He was the only mast who wore khaddar, hand spun cotton cloth. In India in those days, khaddar was worn mostly by the political workers of the Indian National Congress. Formerly, Azim used to move about naked in the streets. He was a must of a high order. As per Baba's instruction, Baidul found out where he resided. Upon seeing Baidul, the must welcomed him, saying, "Come, what can I do for you?" Baidul felt quite happy to hear this, so he openly put forth the request. "My elder brother, meaning Baba, wants to see you. Should he come here?" To this, Azim Khan immediately replied, "He is my father. It does not behoove me to call him here." Baidul reported this to Baba, but he decided to visit Azim Khan. No sooner did the must see Meher Baba that he spontaneously called out, "You are Allah. You have brought forth the creation, and once in 1,000 years you come down to see the play of what you have created." 52, again, this is from Wayfarers, page 307. The sincerity of his voice and the urgency with which he spoke were deeply striking. They smiled at each other, an intimate and affectionate smile, and the contact was over. This particular must tour came to a close with this unique contact of Azim Khan on October 14th, 1946, and Baba returned to Niranjanpur. Baidul, Eruch, Adi Senior, and Pendu, the four witnesses to the extraordinary declarations of Pir Fazal Shah, Brahmanandji, and Azam Khan, were sent back to Pune and Ahmednagar for some work entrusted to them. Adi Senior later wrote an account of these must tours, which was circulated among Baba people. I quote a few lines from Adi's report. The history of different musts and adept pilgrims with regard to their age, confinement, and austerity may sound exaggerated. Achievements such as long life without its care and regular and prolonged confinement at one place are a matter of secondary importance. The musts get these as a matter of course in their spiritual unfoldment. The momentous must contacts are brought about by Baba with hurried and speedy movements. The process seems like drawing out the whole being of the must and wielding it into a course of humanized and harmonized action. It is too baffling a sight to see and too complicated a process to imagine. Who but Baba can know why? He contacts us and what the results are. I repeat, who but Baba can know why he contacts us and what the results are? Our descriptive attempts are too feeble to depict the truth. I think this is a very good paragraph describing all the contacts that Baba has made with Mus. Christmas gift of silent revelations. Meher Baba stayed at Niranjanpur till the end of November 1946. From mid-October onwards, there were no special tours, but some musts, mad persons, and the poor were brought to his residence for his contact. Ali Shah of Ahmednagar was taken to Niranjanpur for 4 days, from the 2nd to the 5th of November. On November 4th, Baba bathed and clothed 7 lunatics, and the next day he contacted 7 poor persons and gave prasad of 50 rupees to each. It was noticed that Baba generally concluded some of the important phases of his must work by serving and feeding the poor. In fact, in the period covered by wayfarers, I think he made personal contact, large personal contacts twice or thrice. Calcutta being one, the Haridwar or Rishikesh during the great congregation. What is it called? The It happens every 12 years. I'm missing the name. Uh, he did one of the meetings then, and in all those he
Kumbh Mela,
gave
right?
away Kumbh Mela. Thanks, Praveer. Yeah, during the Kumbh, and the other was I think in Maharashtra. And in all of these places, he gave away small gifts, and obviously it was a logistical exercise. They had to get the packages and the gifts, and then line up these people, and they had to come and make contact with Baba. Okay, I
One
think.
question I have,
Mhm.
if you don't mind rolling it up. Um, I, I see God mad, God, that's it. But here is also Bal Natu uses the word lunatics. On November 4th, Baba baited and clothed
Seven
seven
lunatics.
lunatics, and the
Yeah.
next day he can. So lunatics is, as much as I know about them, is are people who are mentally ill.
Yes, I think
Uh,
lunatics in the Baba world would refer to medically mad, not necessarily
to
God mad.
who?
Medically mad, medically,
Oh,
what would
medically,
be,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Medically
So,
mad?
yes, that's what lunatic would mean here. So when the must hunting tours were made by the Mandali, the test was always whether the person was lunatic or person was must, and it took some doing to figure out one from the other, because
Oh,
this
I
yeah,
see.
they are very similar in behavior, but there are attributes which specifically differentiate musts from lunatics. So in this rare
So
case he actually
lunatics is
did.
the same. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
go ahead.
in this rare case he has actually done something for lunatics, but otherwise his focus was more on the musts.
So lunatics is something called God mad.
No,
God mad?
no, no.
No.
God, no.
So
uh,
this
uh,
lunatics has nothing to do with God.
With God, yes, exactly. It's just
Oh, I see. Okay.
I think
Medically
medically,
ill.
yeah, medically, mentally ill. Yeah.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
think a
lunatics
couple
are
of,
having psychiatric problems. Basically, you are having psychological problems, whether it's being bipolar or schizophrenia. I mean, not exactly like that, but I think people who are not able to function in society and they are living in, hospitals, mental hospitals, basically. So they are basically lunatics, whereas the musts are definitely God intoxicated. And as Karthik said, both of them sometimes show similar characteristics. But that is where Baba is able to differentiate, and Baidul was very good at that. He became very
yeah.
proficient. On another note, Karthik, I just wanted to comment on your thing about must. Okay, now if you go through God speaks, must is God intoxicated. They are in masti. Masti, as you know,
Mhm,
in Hindi means playful kind of thing. Now, the
mhm,
opposite of must is basically a salik. Now, we have read the name salik, but we know only the real salik. Salik is basically a jivan mukta, in sahaja samadhi. But saliks are also in the same planes as the musts, between the first and sixth plane. So if you look at the definition of Salik in the glossary of God Speaks, page 296, it says Salik, one who consciously has divine experience of any of the six planes. And real
Oh,
Salik is man as God experiencing the state of Bakabila. So basically, you have both Mas and Saliks between the first and the sixth plane, and also between the planes, because we know from the 7,000 spiritual hierarchy on page number 256, where basically there are 5,600 people in the spiritual hierarchy in the first plane, and also between the first and second, between second and third, between third and fourth, between fourth and fifth, between fifth and sixth, and between sixth and seventh. So that is
Yeah.
something to be aware of. And so when the must becomes goes to the seventh plane and becomes a madzub, that's a madzubian state. And then when the salik in different planes gets God realized, and then he becomes a jivan mukta or a sadguru, he enjoys, you call it bakabila, sulukiyat, basically. Of
Look
course, there
at,
is a
yeah.
name called, yeah, atma pratishtapana. So
Yeah.
basically, you have must and salik. So must is basically God intoxicated, whereas salik is body consciousness. He has body consciousness, but he's also in the planes. And then regarding the question of Ashok, my insight is basically I think there are a couple of things. One is this is the first time people like us are able to be aware that you don't just look at a mad person on the street who lives near a latrine and think he's a mad person, because that is the impression we have got
Yes.
from childhood. So I think after reading Baba, I'm able to understand, and look at the characteristics. And I've seen a lot of musts in my own travels, in India. And so definitely, one is Baba is actually pushing these musts because they are stuck. As Baba said, it's better to be with a guru rather than trying to go on the spiritual path on your own, because you'll get stuck within the planes. So this is one lesson where Baba is showing us not only is helping the must to push them into the higher planes, he's also showing us normal people who are on the spiritual journey that you should not go into this plane, get attached to the planes, go veiled, right? So that is another thing. And the third thing is also that we should look at these people in a much more different eye when we see somebody mad. So that is what I
Yes.
thought, that insight came to me about when you were talking about, what is the purpose? Must have always been, since human beings have been on the spiritual journey. But this is the first time in literature we have seen that because of Baba, we do understand the difference between must and, people on the plains and so on and so forth. Jai Baba.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I don't think anyone in the spiritual literature has made a reference to these type of people. And the only other reference that I have personally found is in Sri M's writing. Sri M is a spiritual master who's contemporary right now. He actually calls them musts as well, and he talks about it in his autobiography. What is it called? Pursuit of a Himalayan Master or something like that. He makes a reference to the word, but you're right. I mean, it's hardly used anywhere. And but the tradition of recognition of the special attributes and the gifts that these people have has always been a tradition in the Indian subcontinent. And Baba says must only largely appear in the Indian subcontinent. So that's another input that I wanted to give. So, by the way, maybe Kama, when you were speaking, you were not seeing the screen, but then we have a lot of information on the screen about how the whatever you were saying was what I was showing on screen. So, yeah, uh, the classification of the types. Okay, let's just finish the section and conclude. by that. I don't even know where I stopped. From May 1946, on correspondence with Baba from his disciples and devotees in India had uh, sorry, let me just repeat. From May 1946 on, correspondence with Baba from his disciples and devotees in India had practically stopped. Those in the West were only permitted to write to him about important matters in connection with the work he had entrusted to them. And during the last part of his stay at Niranjanpur, Baba attended to this correspondence. There was a cable that stated, Norina's condition is crucial, needs your guidance. Baba dictated the reply, my eternal love and infinite blessings. As this message reached Princess Norina, she began to feel better, and one of his dear ones cabled back to Baba, received needed advice, love. Baba's cables and telegrams have helped hundreds of his lovers, each in a different way. There was a letter from Jean Adriel. She wrote that she was sending 50 copies of Silent Revelations. This was a pocket-sized book containing excerpts from the silent discourses of Meher Baba, compiled in love by Alexander Marquis. In the foreword, Marquis stated, the age of the intellect has had its day. The greater age of the heart is at hand, and the master of silence is its avatar. He brings to mankind, at the moment of its deepest despair, the divine certainty of redemption. To partake of it, we need to do is to remove, to partake of it, all we need to do is to remove the sandals of materialistic taint from our unsteady feet, discard the garment of intellectual conceit, robe our feeble shoulders in the mantle of penitence, and enter the sanctuary of spiritual readiness in childlike humility and gratitude. It's a good introduction to Baba. Very beautiful. I have never heard or come across Alexander Marquis before, but there is a footnote 53, Alexander Marquis, Silent Revelations of Meher Baba, uh, Hollywood, The New Life Foundation, 1944, page 12. Very interesting. An appropriate comment on Baba's discourses for Meher Baba's words awaken the heart by illumining the intellect. These books were expected to reach India by December 1946 by sea mail. Jean and Alexander had especially sent them in advance as a Christmas gift for Baba and the Mandali. The books were duly received, and Baba was quite pleased with the work done by his two dear ones in the West. Oh, yeah, Jean's I think Alexander is Jean's, I think, friend slash partner. I don't know. I think. Yeah. Anyway, that brings us to the end of a section, which is where I wanted to pause. So I know we ran over a little bit, but it was a very enjoyable read. Thank you very much for being part of it for so long. And see you all tomorrow for discourses. Star Meher Baba Ki Jai.
Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. Thank you for
Thank
conducting
you
the
so
meeting.
much.
Thank you all. Jai Baba.
Thank you.
See you
Thank
tomorrow
you.
night.
Jai
Or
Baba,
Avatar,
everybody. Bye.
night time.
Avatar Sai
Thank
Baba
you.
ki
Thank
jai.
you, everybody.
Jai
Thank you,
Baba.
Karthik.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. Jai Baba.